Hi, everyone. Welcome to Toronto Data Workshop. Today, we are very happy to be joined by Jae Yeon Kim. Jae Yeon is an incoming assistant research scientist at SNF Agora Institute at Johns Hopkins University and a research fellow at the Center for Public Leadership at Harvard Kennedy School. He's previously worked as a senior data scientist at Code for America, and that's where the majority of this talk is going to be based on his experience there. But he also holds a PhD in political science from UC Berkeley, where he finished in 2021. So thank you very much for joining us, John.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. I love Toronto. It's one of my favorite cities in North America, so it's kind of sad that I cannot be in person, but maybe next time, Lauren, we can have a coffee chat. I'm gonna share the screen if you guys don't mind. Okay, let's see. Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Yeah, great. So, like Rowan said, I used to be data scientist in the public sector in the US, and I returned to academia. But I want to talk about my past experience this time, which is, of course, most of the things that I've done there is designing and implementing field experiments to improve safety net experience for poor people in the United States. And that's what I talk about today. And then I thought about the title. Maybe I need to make it a little bit more, I don't know, topically sexier. So or more theoretically oriented. So I use this title, the alignment problem. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So I want to motivate this talk by showing you this quote. So I assume, given this audience, so many of you care about data science, having STEP background, and so on, many of you may know Herbert Simon. He's kind of his intellectual giant from the last century. I stuff I kind of know, it's like published many years and decades ago, but they are foundational. And Herbert Simon, he wrote his memoir. It's titled "Models of My Life." So this is from his memoir, 250, page number 258. So if you want to actually see the context, you can find it. So most of the time, he was involved with the CMU, where he was faculty, Carnegie Mellon University, and he was actually one of the people who founded the computer science department at CMU, and also business school, and also cognitive science department. Kind of crazy. He was involved many departments. And he made this quote by observing how engineering department college was established at the time. So I'm gonna just read it. So the scientists then in the CMU engineering college neither understood engineering nor believed it could be taught. They educated engineers by giving them a lot of physics and math, hoping that their students would later be able to design safer bridges or airplanes. I like this quite a lot, and part of the reason is I got pretty good training as a social scientist from UC Berkeley, where I received my PhD in political science. You know, the tools I use, the theories I use, they came from this background, but still I feel I missed something. Specifically, there's something I wish I didn't know about field experiment in policy context while I was graduating there. And if I want to be more precise, that's about balancing the rigor of research and the cost of implementation, which I call the alignment problem. So, cause I used to be academic and then went to the other side, and I came back to academia. So that's something that's why I'm thinking about this problem. And so this talk is based on my professional experience at Code for America, where I did a field experiment with US federal, state, and local governments. So I worked with 4 state governments: California, my home state, New York, Colorado, and then New Mexico. I worked on 3, actually not very many partnership, many programs, but mainly SNAP, also known as a food stamp. So we create a woman, infant, and children. So if you're pregnant, if you have young kid, you can get support from the government. And if your income is low, and Medicaid. Medicaid is a government-sponsored medical insurance for low-income people. And maybe this is not necessary, again, for the given this audience, but just for some people who are not familiar with experimental methods. Why experiment? We design and run an experiment because we care about causal questions. If you change something, like change X, well, that will change Y. And this is important. It's not like this question is important not only for theory, but also for practice, like a product release, design update, and parts change, so on and so forth. So in the industry, so in academia, we call this randomized control experiment, or ICT. In tech, I think people, more familiar term would be A/B test. A/B testing. Experiments have answered causal questions accurately via the power of randomization. Why we can answer causal questions? Because you randomly assign some people for the treatment, some other people for the control. And if you compare these people and then at the average, you can estimate the causal effect. And this idea is actually pretty old. It came back to Sir Ronald Fisher, 1930s. So it's kind of crazy. I don't know how many we read his book, but it's actually pretty good. Oh yeah, Rowan raised his hand. He's amazing. And this is I consider the hidden engine of incremental innovation, so-called continuous, improvement or product and service optimization in Silicon Valley. This is actually a wider shared view. Also, I assume many of you know Susan A.D. She's a faculty at Stanford Business School and previously chief economist at Microsoft. Susan is one of the early generation tech econs, so economists who went to tech and reshaped how we make decisions for product, service, and other aspects of business. And Susan say, I think when people think about Silicon Valley, they imagine Steve Jobs in a garage or the invention of the iPhone or the iPad, and they think that's what Silicon Valley is. But like most of the innovation in big tech companies is incremental. The A/B test is probably the most impactful business process innovation in a very long time. To experiment, you need to have some theory. You need to know how to like some kind of causal framework and statistical language. But once implemented well, the analysis of ICT is very straightforward. So in practice, you need to create two bar charts. That's where A/B test comes from, treatment and control. So usually A is a control and B is a treatment. That's what I remember. Maybe I'm wrong, and interpreting and then communicating them for your internal and external stakeholders. So this is another quote. It's from Steve Levitt. If you read Freakonomics, or if you're listening to his podcast, Freakonomics Radio, maybe you're familiar with his name, also his voice. I'm actually pretty familiar with his voice because I listen to his podcast a lot. So Steve Levy say, my favorite kind of graphs are what I call big bar, little bar graphs. So they are graphs that have one really little bar and then one really big bar because there's a big treatment effect. And those are the kind of graphs that I want to show to CEO if I'm trying to convince them of something. Because it's easy to understand. So open, and then we want to do this not only like in a lab or on a survey, we want to do this in a field. So by field, what I mean is that like if you're a company, it's going to be product environment. If you're in the government, it's going to be a policy environment, like for caseworker or for people who apply for benefit. Because we want both internal, you're gonna get causation right, but you also get external value. There's like a near world implication, right? So of course, like if you're academic, you care about theoretical questions because theoretical body of theoretical knowledge is what you want to improve. But if you're on the applied side, I mean, you care about theory, but only to some extent. In the end, you want to improve the outcomes that have real consequences. But learning on experiment in the field is very hard. I don't think it's easy. I don't know whether you think that's easy, but in my experience, it's very hard. Not in the way theoretical physics is hard, but marriage or parenting is hard. But I'm not saying like there are no like methodological or technical changes. There are so many, and they are not easy. But like to me, the more challenge, the harder part is actually the relational kind of stuff. So that's what I want to talk about here. So that's kind of logistical unknown and you need to be there when you are doing field experiment. You need to push through, but it's not enough to saying you need to push it through. You need to actually explain what the process is that you need to go through when you want to make this happen. So in real estate, the key is location, location, and location, right? That's why houses in Silicon Valley are so expensive. I'm very sad. I live in Silicon Valley. I want to buy a house, but I still rent a house. Oops, it's on record, but it's fine. My wife doesn't care. She doesn't watch it. And in field experiments, the key is alignment, alignment, and alignment, both internal and external. And so that's why I call it the alignment problem, balancing the rigor of research and the cost of implementation. So this name is inspired by Christian's book, which is on aligning machine learning technology and human value. I kind of inspired by this, but not exactly the same topic, just like the title. So there's a 2x2 matrix because I like 2x2 matrix. This is one dimension, high rigor and low rigor. So if you are from academic, we want to maximize rigor. Because that's how you can place your papers in top journals. That's why, editors and reviewers are bothering you and then making you produce like 50 pages appendix. Because they want you to test everything. But if you're other side, so data science researchers many times need if you want to do field experimentation, you need support from other teams and other individuals to conduct field experiment. I call these people implementers. And for them, the goal is not rigor. They have other things to do. And they don't care whether you want to do experiment and how good quality the experiment is or not. It's not their job. So like you need to make an alignment with these people. So we are happy when there's a high rigor, right? We are unhappy when so by we what I mean researchers and data scientists. We are unhappy when the rigor is low. But these people, implementers, they are very unhappy when the cost of implementation is pretty high. And they are not going to buy your argument. So I experienced this when I was a data scientist. I saw this when some people, academics, came to us and because they want data access and want to do project with us, and they made a proposal. And then it got rejected, but we didn't tell them. And part of the reason is they made a proposal and there was a misalignment. But it seems they don't know what kind of mistakes they made. So it's kind of, I want to unpack the blockbuster a little bit. So in the following slides, I will explain how to achieve this objective, this alignment, in 4 steps: scoping, implementation, measurement, and communication. So SIMC, this is acronym, and I hope that it sounds like a sync, SYNC, that I made this acronym intentionally that way, but we'll see. So 4 components: scoping, implementation, measurement, and communication. So I'm gonna touch on these 4 components one by one. So what I mean by scoping, so if I want to define scoping, at least in my opinion, scoping is turning applied problems into well-defined research questions where you can draw your hypothesis, right? So if you change something and then it's gonna change something in some meaningful outcomes that we want to measure. And I'm talking about safety net programs, which is a combination of 2 major programs. One is a social insurance, like Medicare, Medicaid, anti-poverty programs like SNAP or food stamp, and so on and so forth. And these are the programs I worked on, and I care a lot because I care about poor people. I mean, different people have different normative, orientations, goals in life. And to me, one of the missions in my life is helping poor people. So that's why I do my research. That's why I do my applied work. And there are many safety net programs in the US, and then same for Canada, and many other countries. And then many of these programs actually now operate via digital services. So they accept applications by websites and or mobile apps. So in the US, there are 5,300 .gov websites as of 2014. I think there are more now. And so I can talk about detail about this phenomenon a lot because I work on this area, but for the sake of time, let's move on. So we live in a digital era, but the fundamental structure, so government moved to the digital These are added, but the fundamental structure of these public services remain. So what I mean by that, first, the form. It doesn't mean like if the government providing these services by a website application, it doesn't mean you don't need to fill out a form. You still need to fill out a form. Form, it doesn't change. It's still there. Why? Because there are statutes, there are procedures and rules. They don't change. So we change the medium, we change the technology, but still it's the same. And flow, you need to follow instructions. If you miss the document, that's what's called, and if it's critical, that's what's called procedural denial. You are out, you need to start over. And sometimes that means you need to wait, like 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, and so on. And therefore, what social scientists call, specifically Pamela Hurd and Dawn Maynard from Georgetown, called the administrative burden remain. So if you never heard about administrative burden, it's somehow similar to red tape, bureaucracy red tape, or time tax, like how much time you need to wait to get the service you want. But it has a very specific meaning. So it has 3 components: a learning course, compliance course, and psychological course. So learning course means navigating online forms. You need to understand how the form is structured, what is the information you need to fill in. And there's a compliance course. For example, if you apply for a food stamp, you need to take an interview, which is pretty hard. And then there's a psychological course because you need to be getting stressed and being anxious about whether you are going to get your case approved or not. And so the state's core safety program is there's strong demand for change, but hasn't much change, even though many people are working very hard to make it happen. So strong demand, what I mean is that safety net applicants or participants have difficulty overcoming these costs, as a poverty creates a scary mindset, like tunnel vision. So they just focusing on there are so many things going on in their life. So navigating bureaucracy is not easy for these people. And mismatched supply, main safety net programs are designed in a way to help agencies comply with the rules and procedures, not support their clients. This is kind of contrary to the industry best practice, aka human-centered design. So if you're trying to buy something from Amazon, it's just one click, and then you're gonna buy it. That kind of user experience doesn't exist on the other side in the public sector, and it's because there are rules and procedures. Okay, but how it can change. So I can show some policy solutions that have been tested here. They've been shown some impacts. So there are 3 ways we can reduce these burdens and help people get benefits easier and faster. So the first one is messaging people. Second one is redesigning forms and flows. And the last one is automating back-end flows. So 1, 2, the first and second one, they're kind of front end. And the last one is more back-end. So people may not know it, but you can make a change, and that's going to create huge impact. What is messaging people? Just to, sending email or texting people. Like for example, if some people apply for SNAP, food stamp, like I say, there's an interview requirement, but many people don't know that there's an interview or how to do an interview. So if you can just email them and text them, oh, you apply for SNAP, and then you know that there's an interview, and then you need to do it, and this is how you do it. So this is very simple. It's kind of information nerd. So this is a very low cost. Emails are almost free. Texts are very cheap. It's 1.105 cents per text, depending on API you're using. So we use the Tilo, Equity for America. And impact generally not so great because it's very light touch. So it's average 1.4 percentage point by Della Vigna and then Linus. There's a paper in 2022. Yes, sometimes there are surprisingly big impacts, up to 10 percentage point in unsaturated environments where information matters. So it's a little bit jargon. But what I'm saying is that if these people never got this kind of message, if they didn't know about the interview and other important procedure, if you give them information, it matters a lot. So it's actually my paper, Kim ETL. So I have a paper, it's currently under review. So sometimes, and then it's not only means that, so it's Colorado, but there's also evidence from California. So I think it's not I think it's not isolated evidence. But there's dependency you need to overcome, which is you need to get buy-in from the agency. because there's a consent issue, there's a sampling frame. So how you can send these email and text, somebody needs to provide the sampling frame, the contact list, and that comes from agency. So you need to persuade them, oh, we want to send text or email. It's going to be cheap, it's going to be high impact, and so on and so forth. But that's not the end. There's a risk regulation. So if you want to send text, that's going to be, the text is in a telecommunication environment, which is regulated by FCC. And then if FCC change their rules, you need to comply them. So, which is something that you need to be aware. And there's an interagency misalignment. So for example, in one of the projects I'm involved with, we did a lot of success. We made a lot of success in one county. So there's lots of counties in one state, and then we made it work in one county. You want to scale to other counties, but it was actually not that easy. I can talk about it during the Q&A why that was not easy, but it doesn't automatically happen. You find the good evidence, but it doesn't mean that you can actually scale the project in other corners of the state. And the designing forms and flows. I'm very excited about this project, and it's a higher course in general, in the sense that actually you need to redesign. So for this one, you just need to send information via email or text. For this one, you need to actually try to redesign the existing forms and flows. And depends on whether you want to do a small scale redesign or large scale redesign. So in some cases, where I was a colleague from America, we developed a new application website. So in California, food stamp, its name is CapFresh. So we developed a website that helps people to apply for SNAP. That's called Get CapFresh, which is a big one because you need to redesign a new website. And sometimes you just need to modify like one section in the online application, which is relatively simple. I work on that kind of project with the Federal Office of Evaluation Sciences. So we're trying to find a better way to help people to report their income more accurately by redesigning the income section. Because if you are econ, you know that what's the problem. It's actually not the easy problem. It's an easy issue to make people report their income accurately. And impact sometimes 1.1 or 2 percentage point in reducing application drop rate. Sometimes it's very big. You can reducing application completion time from 1 hour to 10 minutes, 6 times. Why the baseline is so terrible? So for example, in California SNAP, there used to be 200 questions. 200 questions. You need to fill out a form which has 200 questions. So that's why it takes 1 hour. I can talk about it also during the Q&A why we need to do that. But anyway, and dependency, again, agency buy-in, that's always the main issue. If you run experiments on your product, like if you develop new application website, maybe that problem doesn't exist. But still, you need to get support from user research, design, and engineering to make this happen. So this kind of field experiment takes a longer time because of these internal alignments and supports. And risk gatekeepers. Also, this is something I can talk about during the Q&A. It's a government website, it's a government data, but actually government don't do anything in the United States. They do not build websites. They have vendors, they hire some people to do that. So it's kind of strange, but you need to get approval or support from these people too. So it's kind of interesting. You need to navigate, it's a public sector, but you need to navigate both public sector organizations, also private organizations to do this kind of project. And the last one is automating back-end flows. So one example I can think of is a Medicaid ex parte renewal. I think nobody actually know what is ex parte. Maybe you know. It's a legal language. It's a legal language. Ex parte meaning just automatic renewal. So Medicaid is like very big health insurance, government-sponsored health insurance program in the United States. I think almost 1 out of 4 kids in the babies born in the U.S. Supported by Medicaid. So it's a huge program. Lots of people get supported. It's surprisingly huge. And why ex parte renewal matter? So because if you are on Medicaid, it depends on the states, but there's 6 months or 1 year cycle when you need to renew your membership. I mean, if you're on Amazon, if you subscribe to Amazon, Amazon automatically renew your membership unless you're trying to figure out the website and then, trying to not to do that. But on the government side, it's actually opposite. Like, unless you're trying to show the evidence that you are still eligible for the program, you will be kicked out. So if you want to keep the benefits, you need to renew, basically, you need to renew your Medicaid enrollment status. But that's not easy because there's documentation and so on and so forth. So the federal government's recommendation is actually making this process automatic as much as possible because state government has data about these people. So you can use that data. If these people are still eligible, then just keep them. Just to make them, keep their benefits. But many state governments actually cannot do that for a variety of reasons, which is actually a pretty serious issue. So one thing I run from the other side is if you can automate this process, this linear process, this is huge. So we are talking about 1 million people, $1 billion. 1 million people, $1 billion. That's basically the impact you're going to generate. But again, dependencies, agency buy-in, and then risk is this is a hard change. So for example, for messaging people, we don't change anything about the policy. We just sending information, right? So this is easy. And the design informs employers. Also, we just change the how the form is represented, presented to people applying for the benefits. So we don't make a fundamental change in the policy. But this is a bigger and deeper change. So it requires much stronger support from the agency, people who are running the government in a particular state and particular county. So this one is pretty hard. But once you can make the change, I believe this is the best change you can make. But usually this is very hard. And so how we can do this? Like I kind of gave you more concrete examples and specific process you can take to help people, reduce their burden and get benefits, the poor people. And I'm talking to data scientists. And to me, the secret part of data scientists, so because there are kind of two types of data science. One is a more like product oriented, like people who actually build data products, like machine learning engineers. Sometimes they are conflated data scientists. They are data scientists, but kind of different category. And to me, like those people who are doing like more generating insight type. So if you are especially in that category, the secret part of data scientist is writing. So another way you can think about this, if you're a data scientist, like you are not research scientist, you are not working. So basically, you are not working as other data scientists. You are working as designers, engineers, and other people who are in the domain. If that's where you are kind of in a cross-functional team. To me, your secret power is writing. You need to actually write to make an alignment and to be more persuasive. So when I'm saying writing, it's not like academic paper. We don't on the other side, people don't like academic papers, don't read that. Some people read them, but not many. So write a short document, 1 or 2 pager, to articulate the potential benefits, learning, decision, and impact, and implementation course, which teams and staff need to be involved, how much time and how long, and so on. You need to give them detail. It's your job, it's not their job. You need to figure out this. You can talk to people, you figure out this 1 page or 2 pager, and then just to circulate it inside the team and wait for it, whether they like it or not. And sometimes if you want to push it harder, you do one-on-one. You grab some time from your manager or some people who are key decision makers and say, okay, I need 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Here's my 1 pager. I want to just walk you through my main key points, and I want to do this. Sometimes they listen to you, other times they don't listen to you. But through this process, trial and error, you're going to get feedback. You are going to get understanding. So it's not like you are forcing them to do something. You're actually building something together. So I think that kind of attitude is important. In the proposal, maybe I'm too specific, but in the proposal, map problem to research design. So yeah, by research design, what I mean is like how you can, what is the question, why is you apply the problem, like I said, and what are the questions and hypotheses that you can draw from them, and how you're going to answer using data. So make that clear, and you can easily expand this later and then turn into a pre-analysis plan. Analysis plan, like, meaning like something that you can write down before you collect data. And then doing so takes less than an hour using a website like Open Science Framework or as a predictive. And why we do pre-analysis, transparent, accountable, aligning learning objective among stakeholder. And there's many good examples like the one, even in the public sector. So this example, I'm gonna share the slide deck, Luan, by the way, so some people can get the references. So there are many templates that you can usually find from even the just the internet. So this one is from the Federal Office of Evaluation Sciences. They have a pre-analysis template. And why I like having a pre-analysis plan, part of the reason which I didn't actually show here is I want, and it's my personal opinion, I want an archive of experiments. In an applied organization, we do lots and lots of A/B tests or ICTs, but some are well documented, others are gone. And like sometimes I realize that, oh, I want to do this, and then someone who has been in the organization for many, many years saying, oh, actually, we ran that ICT 5 years ago. Well, how come nobody told me? So and why I'm spending my time like writing up this 1 page or 2 page or whatnot. So one way you can solve the problem is also like doing pre-analysis and then creating a unique URL and then put them in a like Google Docs spreadsheet, whatever, just in a central deposit and then keep them. So that everybody can see that, or if you go there, you can find who ran what kind of ICT or A/B test in what year or months or what period and for what learning objective, what we found and so on. So you can find their design and you can improve on it and so on and so forth. So it's beneficial. And implementation, which is turning research objective into research outcome. We make plans, but some plans are bound to fail. Like our surveys are imperfect because like for example, you use a random sampling. So in theory, you are going to get perfect sample, but that's only in theory because you are going to have null responses. And almost every experiment is imperfect. And the reason is not all people follow instructions or follow them as we intended. So that's why I say like a learning experiment, field experiments is very hard, like marriage is hard, or parenting is hard because your spouse or your kids don't follow your instructions. And instead, that's my experience. Maybe you have a different experience, then you can teach me later. Understanding the limitations of experiment helps to scope learning. It's like what you can learn from experiment, what you cannot learn from experiment, so that you can design a better experiment next time, and so on and so forth. So this one ETA paper, I love this paper. These guys are from Apple Data Science. And I recommend to read it in your spare time. What you're gonna do in your spare time, you're going to read the papers, right? When best options are not available, improvise, like jazz. Perfect is the enemy of good. So I'm gonna give you a specific situation. Suppose you want to text SNF clients randomly, right? Because you wanna do some ICT. Problem, you need to randomize these clients in a partner agency's backend system. So in my experience, there was a Salesforce, but there's no randomized function for whatever reason. Or if you're trying to do it, it'll take substantial engineering time and effort and cause friction and misalignment. So these people are going to be unhappy. And then when you propose, I want to do ICT, they say no, because they don't want to do this. And solution, there could be some creative way or low cost way you can get around this problem. Because you are talking about administration. So if you look at application, there's an application number, and there are odd numbers and even numbers. So you can leverage that, or case number, odd numbers and even numbers. If these identifiers are not available, you can use the last digit of timestamp when you submit it. So there are some low cost, creative, maybe not perfect ways to do this, but you can do this. It's better than not doing an ICT. So I'm not saying this is the best possible, the most rigorous way, but still you can do an experiment. And when you design an intervention, that's very critical and very hard. Prototype, refine, and monitor implementation. I mean, how it's going to both the intervention, also for the outcomes, the things that you want to measure. So usually the way we do, so it's something like it's not something I invent here. This is something that I observe and learn from my colleagues. And also this is something that the Apple guys recommended. Write a user story. What is your user story? Basically, step-by-step hypothesis of user behaviors, and check whether users follow the scenario that you intended with engineers, designers, and user experience researchers, or caseworkers and users, depending on project scope. So check whether they do as you intended. If not, something is wrong. So for example, you redesign application, and then there's basically redesign version and then original version, right? And then you need to randomize at a certain point in the application. But the issue is, on the application, there is a back button. So some people want to go back. And how you're going to deal with these people. So there's something like you need to think about in terms of user behavior. And do internal testing and demo, prototyping, and so on. Expect failure, like don't expect that everything is going to be perfect. That's to me unrealistic, and make the implementation plan robust. So what is, like, for example, if you're messaging people, are they going to be successfully delivered to these people? Are there any security issue like spamming, whatever? So something that you need to figure out. So but don't pick data. So you need to implement very carefully, but don't pick it. Monitoring doesn't mean you want to stop an experiment when you find a statistically significant result based on p-value. So, and why? Because even if you run an AA test, so there are two conditions, so basically you are giving them same treatments, right? That's why it's AA. If you run it for a while, because of sampling variance, you will find the statistically significant difference, right? So, that's why picking data occurs a false positive finding. So you need to be careful. There's a good paper by Joari et al. 2015, so you can read this paper. So register temptation. Reliable null findings are more valuable than noise false positive. Why? Actually, in my experience, decision makers love null findings. You may find that surprising, but like if you're having low cost, a lightweight experiment, and then you deliver null finding to them, and they say, oh, this doesn't work. And they move to the second option. So it's actually not a bad news for them. They just learn that this one is not working, so they can move on. So these findings have prioritized decision by not doing zero impact projects. There's a trade-off, there's opportunity cost. So decision makers kill some bad stuff and then move to good stuff. That's always a good one. And measurement, measure what matters. So like it depends on the domain. So in safety net program context, that means people. You want to capture people that you want to help. You want to understand what kind of burdens they experience and whether you are able to reduce them, and then whether you're actually delivering benefits that you want to deliver. So like usually you can do this like in two categories. One is a primary outcomes, and the other ones are secondary outcomes or learning objectives. And the other thing, because we are doing this in a policy domain, ethical issues are very important. So you want to set stopping conditions. So in short, no harm. Some experiments are better to be stopped if they unintentionally. I mean, I don't think people are intentionally trying to harm people in this business. Unintentionally harm rather than help people. So where I used to work, GetCap's team, we have test and learn principle, how we stop experiment when it is observed harm. And then Urban Institute, it's a think tank in the US. They also have a similar project called the Do No Harm project. So this is important for ethical and responsible data science. And details matter. Always pay attention to the units when measuring impacts from safety net field experiments. Benefit application, these are cases, not applicants, right? Because one case having many dependents. So you need to think about that issue when you are sizing up, impacts. and these also relate to calculating benefit amounts. So if you are econ or if you are kind of cost benefit oriented, you want to get the cost, get the benefit as accurately as possible. There's something you need to care about. And easier metrics do not imply better or more important metrics. And the reason is that some impacts have direct monetary value, like dollar amounts, how many benefits these people get. Others don't, like time save. But they are also very important because we are trying to improve the people's experience using government services. Administrative data is essential in impact tracking, but also everything, but they are far, far, far from perfect. So I recently got a chance to talk to a head person doing statistics in the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. And then he talked to me, there is no data dictionary in DHS. I was shocked, but also it was not a surprise because that was my experience too. Many of government agencies, whether you're talking about federal agencies, state governments, they don't have data dictionary. But at the same time, it's a big admin data. So if you go into their backend and their like databases, you will find like thousand tables and so on. So it's not easy. And it's like everyone knows pieces, but not the whole picture. So you need to put the projects together. So that's part of the job. You need to do some kind of detective work. Often there's no dictionary. Even if a data dictionary exists, it could be outdated or incomplete. Check the quality of admin data by talking to technical, IT, business intelligence, whatever, and domain expert caseworker. So let's say I get into database, I do some SQL query, I got the table, and then your caseworker knows something, you can compare your table with what caseworker know about it, and then you can validate. So you need to figure out who has the ground truth, and then you got your one SQL queries and outcomes, and then go to them and validate, and so on and so forth. And document and share knowledge, build your knowledge base of your data system for yourself, your team, and partner. For example, document the data access process. I mean, this is pretty hard in the government. So Daria, you say you work in the big tech, maybe it's not a problem there, but like on the government side, access is a huge problem. Like sometimes you get a laptop from the government because they don't want you use your own laptop, so they send your laptop. Sometimes they send your CD-ROMs. They send your CD, like you need to figure out how you can put the CD inside and then get the data. So the security and data access is a huge issue. So, and even just like if you use a virtual machine, there are many processes you need to take. So document the process and document the SQL query you use so that someone else can replicate and build upon your workflow. Document other key insights you gain from your work. If you want a project to be sustained, policy adoption or expanded policy diffusion, your implicit knowledge must be explicit. And then the last point about measurement is actually integrating quant and qualitative insights. So I'm mostly a quant person, like doing statistics and machine learning kind of stuff. But I also care about qualitative, more like user experience, interview oriented or ethnography oriented research, because people's experience matter. If that's your premise, you actually need to listen to people. And then it's very dangerous, I think, for all of us to assume that you know something about, you understand these people until you talk to them. I say, this is hard, like marriage is hard or parenting is hard, the same thing. You need to talk to your spouse, you need to talk to your kids to understand them, same thing. So experiments, evaluation often come after qualitative or user experience research, kind of discovery stage. And these early stage discoveries have understand context and accurately measure and interpret quantitative outcomes. So that's kind of scaling evidence thing. So you got small scale qual stuff and then interviews, and you can scale them using quant and then actually validating, providing the evidence for it. Or bridging evidence. Experiments are often insufficient to understand the underlying mechanism. Like for example, if you text the people, show up for a SNF interview, they show up, but why they show up? And then you have some hypothesis, but that's hypothesis. If you want to defend them, you actually need to talk to these people. A follow-up survey and in-depth interview could be useful in answering such questions. Lastly, communication. I'm looking at the time. I don't know. So no one just stop me if I'm over. So communication create value. Data don't speak for themselves, so you actually need to communicate, which is very critical. Learning R and Python instead actually not sufficient. You need to actually know how to talk to people. Basic structure, it's stories plus evidence. It is important to demonstrate evidence and also tell stories of the people behind numbers. And like how much do you want to involve evidence there, how much you want to involve story there, it varies by audience. And on one example is here, why Californians need a food assistance, and the students behind numbers, it's Code for Maker project. And part of the reason is actually strategic, not only methodological, because many people don't remember numbers. I mean, I tend to remember numbers, but that's most people. I think they remember stories. So you need to show evidence and to tell stories so that people can remember what you told them. So statistically, this is important. And there are different types of deliverables suitable for different types of audiences. So if you talk to tech people, like fellow data scientists, R Python notebook or Julia notebook, they could be sufficient. They get it, what you're doing there. But if you talk to stakeholder partners, never show them notebooks. That's suicidal. Also, never write 20-page policy, whatever report, whatever. Don't do it. They don't read it. It's going to be buried in a drawer. Slide deck. And sometimes, if necessary, briefs, like 5-page or 6-page briefs, but it's going to be like focused on recommendation and key findings. Everything as technical, going to the appendix. So that people who are technical oriented can read them if they want to, but don't force them to read it. That's when you are going to lose your audience. Academic audience, you know what you're going to do, so I don't talk about it. And in general audience, data scientists actually usually don't handle this. It's mostly marketing and communication people, but you can write up something about blog post, newspaper article, interviews. I'm not going to talk about this because I'm not an expert on this type of communication. And conclusions and discussion. So takeaway, data science is amazing. We can make a change in policy. Data science have improved your safety net experience by sizing opportunity, designing rigorous research, and measuring impact for continuous product and service improvement. Since I work at Code for America, the examples I provided from Code for America, but there are many other organizations doing this, like United States Digital Service in the White House, GSA, the General Service Administration, they have Office of Evaluation Sciences, previously the NOGI unit inside the White House, and there's a public benefit company, NAVAR, and also like academic organization like Georgetown's Better Government Lab. I collaborated a lot, and Urban Institute, think tank, and Mathematica, and others. And I know that there are similar organizations in Canada too. And learning a field experiment is challenging because it requires internal and external alignment. People is hard. People are hard on scoping, implementation, measurement, and communication. And there's one caveat which I hope you remember. We didn't discuss responsible data access and sharing in these slides, like synthetic data and stuff, but they are critical for legal and ethical reasons. So I also put a link here, which is from the Urban Institute, and they have a cool project called Safe Data Technologies. So they are trying to have federal agencies share data access with the broader public, including researchers. So if you are interested in like this issue, you can go into the link and then find more information. So yeah, so this is it. I hope that I'm on time.
Thank you very much, Jae Yeon. That was an amazing talk. Absolutely fantastic. I'll just go quickly to questions, and where I think Ray, do you want to start us off? And and then Yvonne, and if anyone else has any questions, feel free to raise your hand.
And I'm gonna stop sharing if you don't mind.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. That is incredibly helpful and relates directly to my stage of career in the public service in the Canadian government. So I appreciate the coincidence, and I also really appreciate all of your time.
Yeah, I'm just grabbing my note.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the academic side of things, I think we all are clear on and in agreement on and have spent a lot of time on. I'm starting to develop my user experience, user design side. I'm a geographer and I make a lot of digital geospatial tools that are internal to private or to public organizations, but it's a private network of data because it has a lot of health data and protected information.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so the user design is becoming the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
My organization, everyone is really high level, like planners, system planners, doctors, MBAs, and I'm finding that if they have to learn how to use it, it's not designed properly. You know what I mean? It has to be
I know.
so obvious. That's how good the user design has to be.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering, my background's all like statistics and spatial stats and that and cartography. Where should I start? Like, I know there's probably ISO standards for design, but those are vague. Like, where would you recommend someone do a bit of training or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There is a book called Quantitative User Experience Research. Quantitative User Experience Research, written by two people. One person is Amazon, and the other one is my former colleague at Code for America, Kelly Laden. But Kelly Laden was very first quantitative user experience researcher at Google. They were there for 14 years. Kelly was my mentor. So like there's a whole field out there. The quant user experience basically combining user experience with the quant size. Let you say your background is there because maybe it's easier for you to make the connection from your domain rather than, I don't know, from like design, purely design perspective, which is totally different, not different, but like kind of new. So starting from somewhere where you're already familiar, I think that's always easier path. And if Lohan, if you don't mind, I can give you a little bit more explanation how like we use design in the field experimentation. So basically there are two stages when we are doing a project. By we, I mean my former colleagues actually still use we. So there are two stages. One is discovery and the other one is delivery. So discovery is like actually we talk to people, listen to people, and so on. So in the discovery, like actually we go to the field and then we shadow caseworker, we interview clients, and we do something called process mapping. Like basically need to break down the processes that people are taking to apply for benefits and getting benefits, and how these cases are actually being processed behind the scene by caseworker. And then we identify something called pain points. So where people feel pain. Because negative experiences are actually weighted more in people's psyche, right? So we need to pay attention to them. And once you identify these pain points, you can design alternatives. So it's kind of Hegel, philosopher, like the thesis, antithesis, and then that's how you can create synthesis. So after you identify this pain point, you create like some kind of prototype. So if this is a communication channel, for example, we can redesign communication channel a little bit different way. So for example, after you apply for the benefit, you are going to get text reminder. And then you can ask people how many times you want to get text reminder. One time, once, twice, three times, and exactly when. And then you going back to the same people, clients and caseworker, and demoing these different scenarios and explain them. And then you can ask them like, actually, there's some kind of little bit design tool, but I'm not going into much detail there. You can basically asking their opinion about these different scenarios in which they prepare and why. So that's how we actually develop intervention. And this is called, like broadly speaking, it's called human-centered design. And actually in the US case, the federal government is now trying to make a recommendation using human-centered approach in designing interventions and tools to improve what they call federal customer experience. I don't like the term a little bit because it's called federal customer experience, but but at least they care about experience side. I think I can give a credit to that.
Yvonne?
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you, Jae Yeon. My name
Yeah.
is Yvonne. I actually affiliated with Northeastern University as well. I'm in Toronto though. So my question is that I created a AI assistant to do a lot of community support, community services support. For
Yeah.
example, we have a chatbot to plan post-discharge care for elderly. So it's
Yeah.
all automated. And then we also have a in the pipeline, we're building a chatbot to teach police officer how to respond to domestic violence.
Yeah.
So these kind of projects are really like heat like a hot topic right now. I don't know what do you think about the receptiveness of the federal government in the United States? Is there appetite, or they're like still stuck in the era of text messaging?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of efforts and interest and even appetite for using more advanced technologies, including AI, artificial intelligence. And it's already here. I mean, if you think about the history of U.S. federal, I mean, how administrative state developed in the United States, USPS, United States Postal Office, it's one of the agencies using AI very early on. Like if you think about how they processing zip code, hand-written zip code, yeah, they use AI. It's like early generation AI. It's not like a foundational model, but like they used it many years ago. That's why they are so efficient and then still delivering these mailers at a very low cost. So I don't think the government is anti-technology. They are pro-technology, but at the same time, they need to, because they have a mandate, it's a public organization. For example, if Google's product is let's say it's unsafe, then people may have other options. Like they can go to Meta and other companies. But let's say Canadian government fail and their product is not reliable and unsafe. What is the alternative? So for government, because they are basically monopoly by definition, so they have a stronger responsibility, and there's reason for them to be very careful in how they design and implement, especially scale projects. So I think they're doing like kind of pilot project, but they are cautious in scaling the adoption of these kind of technologies for the broader public. For many I mean, for the other side, we want to move fast. We want to scale as soon as possible. But on the other side, like, there's an intention that we need to be careful and slow down a little bit. And I don't think that's bad. But at the same time, I'm nearly tired of government like making and setting new rules and procedures for every time they are freaked out. That's also not a good approach, because basically what that means is we are not doing anything. But if you think about the status quo, like I said at the very beginning, the status quo is pretty bad. People having very bad experience using government services, and we are doing better job, especially for those people who are poor, who are immigrants, who are women, and who are pregnant and marginalized, and so on and so forth. So we need to do absolutely a better job. But like we need to but thinking about how we can make this balance between use and beneficial use and risk. So it's not an easy issue, and there are many stakeholders. So that's why it takes time to make things happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from folks? All right.
I'll ask another question if no one else has one. This is kind of open-ended. I was going to ask 10 years from now, where do you think 5 years from now, what will the projects look like? Maybe 10 years is a little too long of a time horizon, but
yeah. 10 years, 5 years. I'm hoping like the last, so I just basically laid out 3 projects, texting people. We've been doing this almost 10 years. And then the second one, redesigning forms and flows, you've been doing this many years at this point. But automatic stuff behind the scene in the back end, we haven't done it, not enough yet. I hope that can be achieved within 5 years. Because like I said, we are talking about millions of people, billions of dollars. There's so many chains. Like imagine that like if you own Amazon, if you own Netflix, you don't need to renew your membership. You are just there. But if you get some benefit from the government, you need to renew it 6 months or like a year. I mean, how many immigrants are here? I'm an immigrant. I was born and raised in South Korea and I came to the US. I'm now like a permanent resident, but before then, like when I was on my visa, I need to renew it 3 years, 5 years, there's a window. Sometimes I need to be back in Korea, go to the embassy, the whole process. So onerous. But why it's taken for granted? We can change it. Government have data. We can automate the process. So you can waive some stuff, and then so people just going their business, contribute to the economy. That's all you want, right? Contribute to the economy, making more money, pay more taxes. That's good for everyone. And we actually have technological solutions, but they're like alignment problem. You know, there's also alignment problem to make this change happen. But that's what I'm hoping to see in 5 years. Automating some stuff in the back end, so people don't need to go to processes. That's actually not necessary.
Are there any other questions? Maybe I can just finish with just one brief one, Jaeon. If you had a magic wand, right, and we put you in charge of the federal government, what would be your sort of priorities in terms of like eliminating things like that, like to make life better, right? What do you know from your experiments that just is not being implemented?
I want to give credit to federal government. It's not because I want to sugarcoat them. I don't have any incentive. I'm on the academic side, zero incentive. They are not my boss. And the reason is they've done a lot of work building internal capacity, which what I mean is they bring talent inside the government. Like people working in USDS, United States Digital Service. They have several hundreds engineers, designers, data scientists. And then every federal agency, especially after 2018, when the US government passed Evidence-Based Policy Act, they have data, chief data officers, statistical officer, evaluation officer. So focus on people first. And that's important everywhere. Like in private sector, you know, the first thing that you say on startup, like you need to get live people on board. It's same for academia, you need to get live people on board for faculty and students. Same thing for the government. You want to get good people, talented people, passionate about public service, believing that we can do a better job because it's very hard work. So you must not give up, but still need to push through. So we need to bring these people inside, or you need to make allies with nonprofits or foundations or academic organizations so that we can all this together. So I think they are on the right track. But like I said, this is not an easy problem. So if you're expecting like we can solve this like in 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, that's actually bad. So just expecting this is going to be hard work, and let's do the hard work because this is going to be meaningful, but do it in a better way.
Probably a perfect way to end. Thank you very much, Jaeon, for a fantastic talk. I think this will go down in one of the classics of Toronto Data Workshop. Really appreciate your time and looking forward to what you do next.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.